for being here today. I'm actually going to tell you a little story about a blackbird that was too afraid to fly. So let me just share my screen so we can start the presentation. I hope you will be able to see it. So hi, my name is Rozella, and I was actually born with a birthmark on my face. I'm not too sure if you can see it very clearly right now, but it actually started as a small patch on my nose, and as I grew older. So I come from a mixed race family, and when I say mixed, I mean 9 different races. So I have family members who have every single shade and skin tone. So when I was growing up, I didn't think, although I didn't look like anybody else, I didn't think that there was something wrong with me. It was different. To me, I was just another color of the rainbow. It wasn't really until I started going to school I realized I was different. I actually got teased and bullied a lot. People call me names, Two-Face, the supervillain from Batman, and also scary. Strangers stopped me or my street and asked me questions. What's wrong with your face? Is it contagious? Are you sick? And as a young girl, when you're reminded over and over again that something is wrong with you, that you're not good enough, that you don't fit in, you tend to believe it. And slowly, that little girl whom I knew, the girl who was so vibrant and full of life, she slowly disappeared. And it really got worse as I grew older. I in the mirror, I stopped photographs, and I actually started taking a lot of trying different supplements and treatments and medication because I really wanted to get rid of this disgusting thing on my face, right? At the age of 11, I even tried whitening injections, which was not a fun experience. And at the end of the day, after all my parents, their hard-earned money was on all these treatments and medication and nothing worked, I felt worse about myself. I hated myself even more. I felt like such a failure. And somehow I kept that with me throughout my 20s, and it manifested in a lot of different ways. I became depressed. I struggled with anxiety issues. I struggled with an eating disorder because I was told that, the only way I'll ever be loved because I'm ugly is that if I was skinny. So I started binge eating and started throwing up all the time. And even in my 20s, I started drinking a lot. I really didn't know how else to numb the pain, so I used alcohol. And there was one period of my life where I was drinking almost every week, right? And it got so bad that some nights I was so drunk, I would come home from a party, and I even got my key through the door, or I would pass out. Had to pick me up, get me dressed, put me into bed. It was a really bad time, and you won't actually see a lot of photos from my 27th birthday. I don't remember much about my 27th birthday because I actually passed out before it was even midnight. But what I do remember very clearly was the next day. I woke up in a strange hotel room with my cousin sleeping beside me. And I was so sick that day, I kept throwing up. And it was just nonstop. It was so bad, my cousin actually had to take me to see the doctors. And I was at the doctor's for 3 hours because I had alcohol poisoning. And the doctors had to drain it out from my body. And as I sat there, it really hit me, if I don't do something to change my life, if I continue living this way, I was really going to end up killing myself one way or another. I saw my future flash in front of me, and it scared me. And I really wanted to get help. I really wanted to get better. So I reached out to friends who connected me to other people and other programs. I started going to therapy. I started eating healthy. I started exercising regularly, reading all the books and everything. And I even started meditating. This was a photo of me taken in India when I went for a meditation retreat. It was a really up and down journey of a lot of learning and unlearning who I was and learning how to become someone new. And during that period, I actually took a 3-month sabbatical from my work, and I stayed in my sister's house. And there was this one day, I noticed my nephew's toy piano, you know, those rainbow colored ones, lying on the floor. And for some reason, that toy piano was calling me. I didn't know why, but I picked it up and I started just messing around. And I started writing the song about a little blackbird who really wanted to explore the world, but who was really too afraid to fly. So I started that kind of process, you know, made me fall in love with music again. I used to love it as a kid and I forgot about it. And it really like rekindled my love for music again. I started writing songs almost every day for about a year before I actually had the courage to finally perform at my first open mic night. It was in front of 30 people. I was petrified, and I almost like, you know, drove my car and home because I was just so nervous. But I did it anyways, and I continued pushing myself to go back on stage over and over again. And somehow, you know, from 30 people, I ended up on a stage in front of 3,000 people. And the Scottish band Churches, I'm not too sure some of you know them, they actually ended up remixing my song, one of my original songs in 2016. You know, the more I got on stage, the more I became comfortable in my skin, the more I became a little bit more confident. And I really wanted to start a platform, a community platform that could celebrate other people who have differences, a safe place where people could come together and share their stories. So in 2015, I started True Complexion. It was just a Facebook page. I worked with different, you know, videographers and photographers and brands to tell stories of individuals living with all sorts of medical conditions, illnesses, disabilities, skin conditions, and we talk about everything, you know, from mental health issues to body image issues. And it's just a really lovely platform that celebrates diversity and inclusivity. And I knew from the beginning that I wanted to take the platform offline, you know, and get the community together. So that's what I started doing. I started organizing small little community events. And those little small events became a mini festival. So in 2018, I organized a live festival for the first time, and we actually fundraised for Rachel, the lady on the top middle photo. She has a condition called Morquio syndrome, and her medical bill costs 1.6 million ringgit a year for her to survive. So we organized this event for her where all of the proceeds went to her trust fund for her medical bill. So we had a full day filled with performances, workshops, talks. We had a mini bazaar. So it was a really, really fun experience. And because of, you know, what I do with True Complexion and what I do with music, I get to experience a lot of really cool things. Like I spoke on a TEDx stage in front of 1,500 people, and I also ended up, you know, advocating for inclusivity and diversity and doing a lot of interviews on TV and radio. 2019 was a particularly interesting year for me. Right after I won the Women of the Future Award, I actually flew to the US for the Eisenhower Fellowship Global Program. I was there for 3 months and I got to meet a lot of wonderful people and I got to learn a lot. And later that year, I was also in the Obama Foundation Leaders Asia Pacific Program. And despite, you know, 2020 being a really hard time because of lockdown and COVID, I was actually one of the faces of the It Cosmetics campaign. And, you know, photos of me with makeup and unedited without makeup can be seen in Sephora outlets in Malaysia. And this year, It Cosmetics actually brought me back for the global campaign. And you can see my face on, you know, the global social media. 2021, this year, has also been a little bit exciting and scary and crazy as well. What I've been doing is actually working with more young women like yourself. Earlier this month, I actually finished an 8-week virtual series for a group of refugee students aged between 14 to 21. And before Malaysia went back into lockdown, I managed to meet these girls, you know, so this is a photo of us together before the lockdown happened. So I'm not telling you all of this because I am showing off, I want you to see how great I am. But I'm telling you this because I want you to see the possibility happen if you change your story and change the negative narrative that you have in your head, right? Because I still look the same. This birthmark is still here. Nothing has changed. But the thing that has changed is the way that I look at it. Instead of seeing it as a curse, as something that is disgusting about me, something that makes me unwanted and unlovable, I look at it now as my superpower, as something that has created opportunities for me, something that has created opportunities, helped me create opportunities for other people as well. And a lot of people, they ask me, what motivates me to continue on this journey that I am on. And, I always say that it's because of this little girl that you see on your screen right now. I have lost her for so long. I have caused her so much pain and misery for so long. And now that I found her, she's so precious to me, and I don't ever want to hurt her again, and that's the reason why I do what I do today, because I don't want her to go through such hardship again. And that's the reason why I do what I do with the community as well, because I don't ever want to see another person experience what I did, because it was not fun. So it's been a roller coaster journey, filled with ups and downs, and I've learned a few things here and there. So I'm going to share some of them with you. Number one, the biggest lessons I've learned actually is being different is actually a good thing, right? I always thought my differences made me the outsider, but actually being the outsider is a good thing because it makes you stand out from the crowd. So if there's something that you're insecure about, that you feel like, oh, this makes me weird and I don't fit in, perhaps if you flip the way you looked at it, you would realize that maybe you can use that differences to catapult you and do something. Number two, Liz was talking about this earlier. If you can't find your passion, I suggest, and I've learned this from the author Elizabeth Gilbert, follow your curiosity. I was curious about my nephew's toy piano, so I picked it up, and that somehow led me to singing on a stage in front of 3,000 people, and that wouldn't have happened if I didn't follow my curiosity. I was curious about starting a Facebook page for my community, and because of that, I got to meet the Obamas. I'm in a beauty campaign now, and none of that would have happened if I didn't follow my curiosity. So your curiosities are the little tiny breadcrumbs that will eventually lead you to your passion, to what you're meant to do. So if you're unsure about what you want to do right now and you don't know where to go, just follow your curiosity, experiment, and explore and have fun along the way. Number three, there's a huge difference between positive thinking versus positive action, right? You can follow all the social media gurus, you can read all the books, listen to all the podcasts, feel really confident and good about yourself. But if you don't do the dirty work, if you don't actually take action, you're not going to see results. So if you want to, for example, get good grades, if you want to go to a certain school, if you want to get a certain job, all of that, no one's going to hand it to you on a silver platter, right? You have to do the work for you to see the results that you want. So yeah, you have to know that, positive thinking is not positive action. And the only way that results will actually appear is if you consistently take action towards where you want to go. And I know that, when you take action, sometimes it can feel really scary, especially if it's something new, especially if the task seems so giant and big, you can get overwhelmed. And I have anxiety, so I get overwhelmed very easily. So what I do is I break it down into bite-sized chunks. Even when Imran, Pinky's son, told me that, there's going to be more than 50 people in the room today, I started freaking out, right? So I had to remind myself, break it down into little steps. So what's the easiest step I could do? I could pick a template, Now that I have a template, what's the next thing that I could do? Maybe choosing photos. That's not too stressful, right? So I chose photos, and then after I had my photos, I arranged it in sequence. Then after that, I put words to the photos. So when you break it down into manageable bite-sized chunks, take it step by step, everything will be a little bit more manageable. And number five, when you actually start taking action and putting yourself out there, you're gonna experience rejection, you're gonna experience failure, you're gonna experience a lot of bumps in the road, and that's just part of the process, right? No one has ever achieved any form of success without experiencing some difficulties, right? And during those difficult days when you feel like giving up, the one thing that is gonna push you forward, that is gonna keep you going, is your belief, knowing deep down in your soul that this is what I'm meant to do, that this is meant for me. So many people told me that, I started music at 27. Most people retire at that age, right? You start at 17 at your age. And people told me I was crazy, but, I believe that I was meant to do it for some reason, so I did it. When I started True Complexion, people told me it's a waste of time, why are you doing this? It's not making you any money, it's not going to get you anywhere. But I believe so much in the project and the platform and the cause, that I just kept going, and because of that, so many wonderful opportunities happened to me. So your no, your KNOW, has to be bigger than all the no's that other people are going to tell you and the no's that you're going to tell yourself in your head. And finally, when I used to look at other people on stage, I used to think that, they're so fearless. They don't feel scared at all. But what I realized is that courage means that you're scared to death, but you're still choosing it to do it anyway. You're committed to do it anyway. I am petrified every time I sing on stage. I have a full-blown anxiety attack. But because the work is so important to me, I choose to go back on stage over and over again. So I just wanted to share all of this with you in case, you have a little blackbird inside of you who's looking out into the horizon, wondering what's out there for you, scared to take the first leap. I want you to know that, it's okay to be scared. That scary feeling is actually a good thing because it means that this thing is important to you. And yeah, I hope that, you find the courage and the strength to spread your wings and fly. Thank you very much. So that's the end of my presentation today. If you would like to connect with me, here's all my information. We're gonna jump to the networking session after this. So I'm gonna just read a little bit of rules and regulations so we don't all get lost, because I'm not too sure what I'm doing as well. So for all the students here, you will actually be able to interact with different ambassadors from different industries and fields and different countries. The networking session will start with a structured session on the tables you are currently in. You'll have 15 minutes with each ambassador on your table. So what we would suggest is for each ambassador to spend about 3 to 4 minutes speaking about what you do, telling the students about your story and your journey, and tips of what you've learned when you were younger, what you wish you knew when you were 18. And once the ambassadors have shared their story, then the students can go ahead and ask questions. And like Pinky said earlier, there are no silly questions. So if you're scared to ask something, have the courage to be that blackbird and go ahead and attack and ask that question. So after the 15-minute session, we will send an announcement asking all of the ambassadors to rotate tables so that everyone gets a chance to speak to each other. And so for the students, please stay where you are, and as all the ambassadors move to each table. And if you are on table 2, for example, you can move to table 3, and so on and so forth. The only exception will be the ambassador on table 16, who will move to table 2. So once the ambassadors have moved, please share your journey, followed by the Q&A session, as mentioned earlier. And after the 15 minutes again, an announcement will be sent signaling the start of the free and easy networking session. So please feel free to move to any tables that you want. So how do you do that? Is by by hovering your cursor over a table and double clicking so that you can move tables, right? So hover over the people's icon on each seat to see who's there. And if there's someone you're interested in, you can just jump to that table. So thank you so much for listening to my story. Thank you so much for having me today. And I hope you enjoy this networking session.